Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you all about the latest album from Aeternam, Qassam, out March 27th as a self-release. This album has 9 tracks, 45 minutes in length, and this is the band's 4th full-length studio album. These guys are a symphonic folk death metal band from Canada, and in my opinion, they should be on everybody's radar. They were not on mine. Don't be a fool. Listen to these guys and they will be on your radar going forward. We checked out one of their singles on the channel. That's how I discovered the band. Then I checked out their second single, and that single confirmed what I heard in the first one. This band has a lot of talent, a lot of promise, and that's why I decided to review this album. The album did not disappoint. The album really delivers everything that you got from those singles. Those singles were the appetizers, and this is the main course. That's how the album feels to me. The approach to the record, as far as the structure and sound is concerned, is very consistent, very cohesive, all the way through from the first to the last track. Having said that, there's an interesting dynamic with this album. There's a song in the middle of the record, Palmyra Scriptures, that really changes the dynamic of the album. So you have a record here that has the same elements from the first to the last song. But in the first half of the song, death metal is the main element. It's a driving force. The symphonic and folk elements are there, but they're not as predominant, in my opinion, as the death metal elements. After this song really changes everything. This song is almost a pure folk metal song. After this song, the album shifts, and then the folk and the symphonic elements become the driving elements of the tracks, while the death metal piece of it is there to enhance the heaviness and the aggression of the song. So you have a record that, when you look at each song individually, or when you break the album, you can see the differences between the tracks. You can see that the structures are different, the sound is different, the way they're put together is different. But then when you take 3 steps back and you look at the whole picture, the album really has a consistent sound. It almost sounds all the way through the same. Having said that, because of these changes, because of these dynamic changes from the first half to the second half, and even on how each song is created, each song having their own fingerprint, their own DNA that makes each song very specific, very unique, you have an album that from the outside looking in sounds very cohesive, very uniform all the way through, but when you look at the individual songs and when you're listening to the album, you realize that they're all very independent. So you have an album that doesn't sound repetitive, that sounds very dynamic, that each song has its own characteristics, its own dynamics, and that to me is very important for a record like this. Then on the other side, the mixing of these elements really allow the songs to have that independent feel, that independent sound. The folk elements on this album are there on every track. Like I said, perhaps on the first half, not as predominant, more predominant on the second half. The main style, in my opinion, is really Middle Eastern. This album really has that Middle Eastern vibe, and they really pull their folk influences out of that part of the world. So almost every song has this Middle Eastern feel to it. Perhaps the only exception being Celestial Plains, which in my opinion has more of an Asian vibe, perhaps more Japanese. It really feels almost like something out of a samurai soundtrack movie. Really interesting, really unique sound, really unique approach. It works really well for that song, and it kind of breaks that mold of that you had all the way up until that point, and you have after that, which is the folk elements of each single song having a Middle Eastern influence. This one completely different. The folk element is still there, but they just went with a different style, with a different approach. As far as vocals are concerned, I really like the style of vocals, clean, harsh vocals. To me, it's really important because this album is all about telling stories. It's all about a storytelling record. So when you use clean and harsh vocals, you are able to tell the story better. You're able to really give life to the characters, really give life to the lyrics, and able to use them in the songs in different places, in different spots. It allows them to make a song regain life, really jump off the pages and become something completely different. So to me, the use of the vocals is very important. How they used it was even more important, and they did it phenomenally. Both styles are very good. I really like the harsh vocals. They're not overly harsh, but they have a roughness around it, and the clean vocals are absolutely magnificent, filled with melody. Perhaps one of the main, outside of the symphonic elements, one of the main elements of melody on this album is definitely the clean vocals. The symphonic elements of the album really is the bow that ties this gift together, because the symphonic elements are there throughout every single track, and they really allow the album to have almost a cinematic vibe. So when you think about the record, as I mentioned, that it's a storytelling album, that it's all about telling a story, in stories, you having symphonic elements in the record really allow that story to become then almost cinematic. And that to me is how this album sounds at times. You're listening to it in certain songs, almost feel like a movie score. They don't feel like just a heavy metal track or a death metal track. They really feel like a movie score, and that to me is really important because it ties into the lyrics, it ties in with the style of vocals that they used on any given track. Everything is there for a reason, and everything is there to enhance the other element or to get the most out of the other element. And to me, the symphonic elements of the record really enhance the overall sound of the album, but also bring to life those lyrics, the way the vocals are used. It just really enhances it, just levitates it. The guitars and drums come together. To me, those two elements is really hard to separate because they're really the driving force behind the heaviness and the melody. They do both. They give you two sides of the coin, if you will. Sometimes they're both heavy together. Sometimes one is heavy, one is melodic. Sometimes they're both melodic. So the drums and guitars, in my opinion, play a very important role. They really work across all sides: melody, heaviness, brutality, aggression, intensity. They really combine all of these different elements in order to give a lot of substance, in order to give a lot of texture, a lot of volume, a lot of thickness to this record. Really coming together, knowing when to use them, when to interconnect them, and when to break them apart, to me was one of the key fundamental aspects of this album that allows the record to have this interesting dynamic on a track-by-track basis, and then the overall dynamic that the album has to offer. Overall, I have to say that this album surprised me. I didn't know this band, at least I didn't know too much of this band going in besides the singles. This album is outstanding. So far in 2020, best Canadian album that I've heard. Like, nothing has even come close. Not only the quality of the record in terms of how it sounds, how it's put together, the idea behind it, how, like everything that I said, how they incorporated the clean vocals, harsh vocals, symphonic elements, the different folk elements, all of these things were magnificently done. But the production value of this record, the mixing, the sound, the quality, how crisp it is, all of these things are extremely important for an album that has this kind of backbone of symphonic and folk elements. Really important because you need to have that quality, you need to have that crisp sound, and they did it. This album is absolutely phenomenal on all fronts. There's nothing that I can look at this album and say that this could have been better, or they should have done this or should have done that. This is a really well crafted, well executed, well delivered album. Best Canadian album so far that I've heard in 2020. Now, as far as songs are concerned, I picked 3 of my favorite songs that all have different elements, different things, and different reasons why they're my favorite. I want to start with The Bringer of Rain. Really powerful song, driven, aggressive track. Heavier in the verses, more melodic in the chorus. That's the dynamic. Now, the break between those two elements is not massive. There's not a huge difference between the verses and the chorus. They almost blend in with each other, but without a doubt you can tell the chorus has a lot more melody, so there's no drastic changes. There's just a gradual process, but definitely the chorus has a lot more melody. The clean vocals following the second chorus of the song really elevate the melody that this song has. It really takes it to another level. Then they add a little piece there, almost like a middle bridge with a narrator style vocals. I really like that. Once again, all about telling a story, all about bringing those lyrics to life. Using the narrator in that part really does that, and it really breaks the song. It's really the bridge that divides the song into two. Then after the narrator, it comes another vocal bridge, and then you get the formula being repeated all over again. You pretty much get the song going back to the beginning, same style of approach with verses, chorus, the melody in the chorus, more heaviness in the verses. It's a song that really goes full circle, a song that's very heavy, very dynamic at times, very melodic in others. It really mixes all the different aspects of the band, and it's perhaps one of the songs that gives you a synopsis of what the whole album is about. If you hear this song and this song only, this song has all the different elements that you're going to get throughout this album, from a vocal perspective, but also from a sound perspective. Next, Celestial Plains. The reason I picked this song is, while every single song had folk elements, I mentioned this before, this one, to me, the folk element really had a Japanese vibe to it, almost something that's straight out of a samurai movie. At least to me, it felt that way. I like the fact that they went with this different style, this different approach. Really worked well with the lyrics and really worked well with the song structure. The song has, in my opinion, more of a melodic death metal feel. This, to me, while there's some symphonic elements in this song, To me, the two main components of this song is the death metal side and definitely the Japanese folk influences. When you put these two together, it almost feels like a song straight out of Whispered. It really feels that way. It has more of a melodic death metal structure, sound, approach, and delivery. Still some symphonic elements there, but because they're not as predominant as in other songs, it allows this song to feel a lot more like a melodic death metal track than anything else on the record. There's no other song that even comes close to this track. I like that approach. I like the heaviness that this song has. I like how powerful it is. I like some of the bursts of folkiness that they include in the track. The track is really heavy at times, and suddenly comes this burst of a folk melody that just breaks that, and then it goes back into heaviness. I like that approach. I like that dynamic. It really resets the song for the listener. The vocals are really used in this song as it's telling a story. If there's a song that really allows the style and the vocals to tell the story to its perfection, this one is it. I really like that outstanding balance that they're able to achieve with the clean and the harsh vocals. Overall, my favorite song on the album, and I think it's because of all these different elements, specifically because it's a song that tips the scale more towards melodic death metal. Being a huge fan of melodic death metal, obviously this is a song that's going to appeal a lot more to me. Next is Ascension, Demolishing opening. It's really a traditional death metal song as it starts. It doesn't stay that way all the way through, but as it starts, it almost feels just like a pure traditional death metal track. That is the sound that dominates at least the first half of the song. There's a bass bridge in the middle that it's so short, but it's so groovy. I almost wish it went a little bit longer. Very short, very groovy, really breaks the song, changes the dynamics. It adds this grooviness to it and resets the track. The second half of the song, in my opinion, has a more melodic approach. So the song starts off being almost a pure traditional death metal track. Then you have that bass bridge that, while short, really changes the dynamic of the song, and then the second half of the song a lot more melodic. Still has brutality in it. It still has heavy elements specific towards the end. Towards the end, you really feel like the song is coming full circle. But right after that middle bass bridge, it becomes a lot more melodic, more symphonic, still with a lot of folk elements, and really shows you that they can have a song that starts off one way, have this huge prolonged portion that's completely different from how the song started, go back to the beginning and complete this track to have a song that's really robust in its approach as far as the sound is concerned. Alright guys, this is it. This is Aeternam with Qassam, once again out March 27th. Let me know your thoughts on the singles, on the band. Use the comment section below. Let me know, and I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.